Yo!
And now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Yo, Joe! Welcome, friends and fans, to another episode of GalaxyCon Live, where we are bringing the convention experience directly to you. And today, we are fighting for freedom with 7 fantastic actors from America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force. And now is the time for all of you in our chat room to begin typing in your questions for them. Immediately after the session, you'll have the opportunity to talk to them directly through our private chat options, as well as purchase for our selection of personalized autographs, all of which are available now at GalaxyCon.com. So now let's fall in and report for duty. Our first guest is an actor, comedian, and professional wrestler whose credits include Car 54, Where Are You?, The 3 Days of the Condor, and Max Headroom. Today, he joins us as the voice of communications specialist Corporal Jack Morelli, codename Dial Tone. Please welcome Hank Garrett.
Thank you for this wonderful intro. I was wondering who you were talking about.
Oh, good to have you here, sir. How you doing?
Very well. Thank you so much.
So glad to have you here. Now, I understand you have a brand new book that just released.
Yeah, the book. Oh, yes. I have. It's a book that's just been released, and thank God it's doing quite well. And it's called From Harlem Hoodlum to Hollywood Heavyweight.
Wow.
It's about my life story, and I started off by living on the streets in New York as a kid, and becoming a pro wrestler. I'm in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
The Minnesota Farm Boy, I believe you were known as?
Yes, the Minnesota Farm Boy. I'd never been to Minnesota, never saw a farm.
A typical wrestling angle if I ever heard one. Well, sir, that is so awesome. I assume this is available where fine books can be purchased?
Amazon. And under the heading of books, of course. And it's a lot of talk about the possibility of it becoming a film.
Well, I think I just found something new I'm going to add to my Amazon wish list for Christmas. Once again, Hank, thank you for joining us here today. It's so awesome to have you.
Thank you so very much.
Very good. Our next guest, he is an actor, singer, and musician whose credits include The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin, Dumbo Circus, and The Land Before Time. Today, he joins us as the voices of Infantry Trooper Corporal Andrew Myers, codename Footloose, Canine Specialist Sergeant Stanley R. Pullenruder, codename Mutt, and Heavy Weapons Specialist Sergeant Craig McConnell, codename Rock and Roll. Please welcome Will Ryan.
Rock and roll. Howdy.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing today, sir?
Not bad, not bad. I'm excited because Hank's new book finally came out, and I've been waiting for this for years. Seriously, he worked on one of my favorite shows, Car 54, Where Are You?, which was a Nat Hiken show, and Nat Hiken's other filmed show was Sergeant Bilko, or The Phil Silver Show, or You'll Never Get Rich. It had 3 names.
Yeah.
You're a great writer, great shows, and Hank was there.
Speaking of favorites, you worked on one of my all-time favorite movies, The Wizard of Speed and Time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's one of my rare on-camera things. I played 6 or 7 parts in that. I'm the head of the animation union.
That's right.
And I suggested to Mike Jitlov, the director, hey, it'd be kind of funny if we had Ward Kimball in this scene. And he took me seriously, and Ward Kimball's in that scene. Ward Kimball being one of the Disney's 9 old men of animation.
Yeah.
And the guy that Walt said, I'm not a genius. However, if there is one genius around the studio, it's got to be a fellow by the name of Ward Kimball. So I got to work with Ward Kimball in that film. That's
absolutely outstanding. I enjoy that movie. It's one of those movies I loan out to people all the time. Said you've never heard of this, but you'll love it. Trust me. And they all come back and say, yeah, that was adorable. So Thank you for being a part of that. And thank you for joining us here today. Our next guest is an actor whose body of work includes The Tick, Lost, and The Expanse. Today, he joins us as the voice of Silent Weapons Specialist and Stuntman for Frozen Fudgy Bars, Corporal MacArthur Ito, codename Quick Kick. Please welcome Francois Chau.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Thanks for the great intro. Hey, guys.
No problem. Thanks for joining us here today, sir.
No problem.
Oh, by the way, and seriously, though, fantastic job on The Tick.
Oh, thanks. I've waited like 35 years to get that role. That's my favorite role so far.
Yeah,
It was worth it.
It was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. Well, awesome. Great job on that. And once again, thank you for joining us here today. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Our next Joe, he is an actor whose body of work includes Ben 10, Grand Theft Auto, and author of the book Parenting for the Digital Age, The Truth Behind Media's Effect on Children and What to Do About It. Today he joins us as the voice of Chief Warrant Officer Dashiell Fairborn, codename Flint. Please welcome Bill Ratner.
Yo, Patty. I've recorded all that. I'll be playing that before I enter every room for the rest of my life. Thank you.
It's absolutely yours. Take it with my blessings.
And thanks for plugging the book. This basically is tell your children not to watch anything but G.I. Joe and Transformers. This has got a whole chapter on Barbie, which I know that most of you are interested in, and on G.I. Joe. But much more importantly is this book. It's not a big book. It's an actual book from Poems for All.
Dude, blow him up.
And I got a G.I. Joe poem published called The True Life Story of Barbie and G.I. Joe. And this is a steamy tale. So, yeah, I'd like you to go to michaelbell.com and he'll tell you all about it.
Okay, absolutely fair. Well, Bill, thank you for joining us here today. It's so cool to have you. Our next guest, she is an actress, a dialect coach whose credits include Archer, Grimm, and Dollhouse. Today, she joins us as the voice of Covert Operations Specialist Staff Sergeant Allison Hart Burnett, codename Lady Jaye. Please welcome Mary McDonald-Lewis.
Yay!
Oh, hey, Mary, so nice to have you here.
Thank you. We've got a little Joe mascot joining us today, apparently. That's young Sullivan, everybody.
Oh, hello, Sullivan.
And Sullivan's one of the good guys. Be kind to animals, everyone. You know that's my favorite thing.
Absolutely. So, like I said, I was doing my remembrance on you. So you've done a lot of really good work as a dialect coach on a lot of shows I really enjoy. How did you get into that?
You know, us voice actors, we're mouthy people. We like to swear.
Really? I never noticed.
Spit and speak in accents all the time. So it came to me very naturally, actually. And one day the film commissioner of Oregon called me up and said, you're a dialect coach, aren't you? And without missing a beat, I said, yes, I am.
And you can ride a horse.
Yep, exactly. And that was about, 15, 17 years now. And I've got to work with Patrick Stewart, gave him his first proper American accent, and David Tennant, and all manner of wonderful people through the years. It's a terrific job. I love it.
That is outstanding. Well, again, I think I know the role that you did for Stewart on, so definitely good job on that.
Thanks very much. Yeah, he was a bad guy, and that's where he fell in love with pit bulls, by the way, and is now a pit bull foster dad.
Yes, he is, very much so. Well, hey, the domino keeps falling. Awesome. Our next guest is an actor whose credits include Spider-Man, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and Voltron, Defender of the Universe. Today, he joins us as the voices of Desert Operations Specialist Corporal Ronald Tauter, codename Dusty, and Naval Operations Specialist Chief Petty Officer Hector Delgado, codename Shipwreck. Please welcome Neil Ross.
Ahoy, mateys. How are you? I got the hat. I got this at an Army surplus place. I went in. Do you have sailor hats? And they said, get out of here, you panty waste. But I grabbed one on the way out. Anyway.
Well, there you go. And for the record, he also did the voice of Dreadnought Buzzer, but the bad guys are tomorrow. And several Transformers, but, we won't mention any names. Dinobot Slag.
Uh-oh.
Neil, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Patty. Thank you. How are you doing?
I am holding the fort here in Central Florida.
It's a pleasure to see you and all these old friends of mine. And this is delightful.
Yes, and speaking of delightful, our final guest is an actor and teacher whose body of work includes Plastic Man, The Smurfs, and Star Trek. Today he joins us in several roles, including Rotary Wing Specialist and Chief Warrant Officer Victor Sikorsky, codename Lift Ticket, Combat Engineer Charles Gorin, codename Tollbooth, Special Weapons Specialist Staff Sergeant Timothy Harlan, codename Blowtorch, Motor Vehicle Specialist Staff Sergeant Lance Steinberg, codename Clutch, and finally, Field Commander and Master Sergeant Conrad Hauser, codename Duke. Please welcome back our friend Michael Bell.
Woo-hoo! He hasn't changed a bit.
Two-dimensional.
That's no joke. That tea towel, this tea towel was made by one of the fans, which was so great. And they made one for my wife also, for Victoria, because she was the She-Hulk. So they made one up for her, which was kind of fun. And this is really cool seeing these old faces. Oh my God.
Right back at you.
If you cut me in half, you can count the rings.
Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
It's good to see you again. A few weeks ago, we did our Darkwing Duck reunion. That was a delight. And now we've got you in the home element of G.I. Joe. And thank you, all of you, for joining us today. As always, we at GalaxyCon look forward to the day when we can get back and put you back on our stages and you back in front of your fans. But in the meantime, we have the GalaxyCon virtual stage. So glad to have you all. So our team right now is going through the chat room and pulling out the questions. In the meantime, I would love for our audience to learn about how G.I. Joe began for each of you. And I think if we go in chronological order, Michael, we will start with you first because you were in the first 5-parter, the Real American Hero miniseries.
Well, I slept with Wally Burr.
Oh, excellent.
And,
if anybody else did that too, just raise your hand and we'll go on to the next question.
It just, when we went out, we just were called on the job. At least I was called on the job. And they said, you have your choice of picking from these characters. And they had all these prototypes out there. And I picked the one guy I looked most like, which was Duke, with the blonde hair, crew cut, a lot of muscles, packing. And so I figured, hey, I look like this guy, so why don't you give me? And they laughed, and they wound up giving it to me anyway. So,
oh, absolutely worth. So, and then in the second miniseries, Revenge of Cobra, Neil and Bill, I believe you joined the roster then.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, there were only 6 characters, which sort of morphed magically due to economics into about 86 characters. And I remember about 100 of us. I remember there, guys who were twice as old as me and Hank Garrett standing in line outside Wally Burr's studio in Studio City. This line of actors holding these little black and white drawings of the characters they were reading for. And then Mary was standing next to me going, yo, Joe, you're kill, blood. And I said, Mary, what are you doing? Reading my lines, dude. Start studying. And one by one, we were called in there to be, surveyed by Wally Burr and his minions and all the writers and all the executives from Sunbow and Hasbro. And there we were. And I was cast, unlike Michael, in the character that I look most unlike. My pectorals look nothing like Flint's, but
But it was a meaty part, though. You were basically the second in command.
Yeah, 50 episodes. And the best compliment we ever got, Michael, I really want you to cover your ears, is when Duke and Scarlett were on, there's going to be a lot of talk. When Lady Jaye and Flint were on, there's going to be a lot of, there was a lot of action. Yeah.
Didn't we share a voice, Bill? Somebody once saw something where it was your character, but it was my voice, or my character, and it was your voice. And I don't remember. It was some sort of a mix-up, and they just printed it that way.
We did that when you and I were going out. That's before you and Wally.
I got it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So, Neil, how did Shipwreck evolve for you? And, of course, it's his famous vocal affectation.
Yeah, it's a long, involved story, which I cover extensively in this book, which is titled Vocal Recall, A Life in Radio and Voiceovers, available at Amazon and Audible. And you could also go to a website cleverly titled Neil Book, neilbook.com, neilbook.com.
Awesome.
The only audition that I specifically remember, of course, was Shipwreck. I went in, did a couple of passes at it. I could tell everybody was underwhelmed. And then a guy asked if I had seen the movie The Last Detail, which, thank goodness, I had. A Jack Nicholson movie early in his career that sadly has been forgotten, although he was nominated for Best Actor for that role. Didn't win, but still. But then he had some huge hits after that, and everybody forgot about it. But it's a lovely little Hal Ashby film, and there's a scene in a bar which flashed into my mind, and I knew what they wanted, and I did a voice that was Nicholson-esque. And so I launched into that, and the guy who had asked me the question winked and said, "You got it," which is usually the kiss of death, by the way. But in this instance, no, he was right. About a week later, my agent called and brightly said, "Well, you got the sailor part, sweetie." And the rest is history, as they say.
Absolutely. And you're right, that is a criminally underrated film. And that was before Quaid went a little cuckoo.
I believe it was around that time, yes, or a little before.
And then we go on to the third miniseries, Pyramids of Darkness, and that's when Mary and Francois' characters joined the roster. How did this come about for you guys? Was this they had remembered you from earlier auditions, or is this a fresh? Okay, we're doing another series. Why don't you come on in and read for us?
Francois, you want to take?
Mary.
Oh, thanks. I will. Thank you. I was in the audition that snaked around the block, along with everybody, and so they had clearly already booked me for Lady Jaye by that time. Although not initially, I wasn't called in for Lady Jaye initially. I was called in for a very small role that would have occurred, I think, in the first series, the miniseries.
Yeah.
But something Wally heard in my voice, he liked, and I grew up a tomboy. Barefoot, riding bareback, swimming my horse in the rivers in Northern California with my dogs, and natural born tomboy. And so when he asked me to get louder, that was mother's made to me. And so I got louder and louder and louder, kept stepping back from the music stand and giving him an even bigger Yo Joe. And I think that was how I got the part. Now, I was not shown a picture of Lady Jaye. I'll talk more in the panel about the uncanny likeness that we share. But that was an eventual surprise that I think really took all of us by surprise, animators as well as me, and now the fans, of course, appreciate it a lot. But it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. This role, this show, my friends, everybody who's watching today. Yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Your character was a blessing on to my eyes as a very young man about to enter teenhood, and I'll leave it. You're welcome.
Yeah. It's not the first time I've heard that story, my friend.
We can all leave if you.
To me, Scarlett was always Snake Eye's girlfriend, or in the cartoon it was Michael's. But anyway, Francois, tell us about how quick it got through your life.
For every.
First of all, I have to say, this brings back incredible feelings of being very intimidated being in this group right now, because it's like, who doesn't belong here? This is how I felt when I first got the job. I walked in the room with all these great voice actors, and I was like, uh-oh, what am I doing here? I had just gotten to Los Angeles like a few months before, and I got this job of Quick Kick, and it literally was like, oh, you can't swim? Okay, here, I'm going to throw you into the deep end of the pool, and you're going to have to figure out what's happening. So I got there, I auditioned for Wally. I was like, oh, wow, this is great. And then I got the job, and I went in, and I'm trying to remember all these faces. I did meet most of you, but at that point, I was so, like, scared. I was just like, oh, my God, what's happening here? And everybody was doing all these great voices, and I'm just sitting there listening, watching, going, oh, man. And then I think there was a few times as we were working on stuff where I think I looked at Wally's face And I know he was thinking, my God, why did I cast this guy? What is going on here?
Oh no.
It was a huge learning curve. And I'm so, what's the word? I'm so appreciative of how much I learned from just watching everybody doing this stuff. It was great. It was amazing.
And the character moves the needle a little bit. He was an Asian character who did martial arts, but had a 100% American accent.
Yeah, it was. I think. Maybe the tiny beginnings of diversity, where they thought, oh, let's do something weird. Let's just cast an Asian American actor doing an Asian American part, right? And the weird part is everybody had a shtick. So you remember, Quick Kick was supposed to be a retired stuntman.
Yep.
So he did all these really bad impressions of Hollywood stars, right? So for the audition, while they said, well, can you do something of Hollywood stars? And I'm like, well, geez, I've watched Rich Little once in a while. And so I started doing really bad impressions of John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart and some couple other guys I could think of. And I thought, wow, that's, that kind of cost me the job, but I guess it was bad enough to get me the job.
Fair enough. And the rest is history. And then we go on to the series gets picked up for a full run. And Will, that's when you joined the roster.
That's right. And luckily, I was bad enough to get the job, too. But I have to say, in the defense of Francois, you actually had the authentic voice. You were using your real authentic voice. The rest of us were doing phony voices. For example, my audition was from Mutt, and I did various things for. Oh, I should mention, I didn't sleep with Wally Burr, but I did save his life several times. So maybe that's how I got the audition.
I just gave him money, but
I want to argue with Will's point. Wally was a realist, a naturalist. And it was one of really G.I. Joe and Transformers, which were done by the same, a lot of the same actors, directors, writers, etc. We're really looking for real voices, looking for real characters as opposed to a little kind of crazy cookie. And to Francois' comment, it was really, as the show went on, it was very intimidating to be in a room with these every single great old character actor from The Virginian, Gunsmoke, on and on and on that I'd ever seen on television was suddenly in Wally Burr's studio doing parts in G.I. Joe. And so, Francois, your comment was very interesting. I remember the first few days, just a few of us. But as the G.I. Joe team grew into like literal 86 characters, so they could sell 86 action figures, they brought in a wonderful old TV actors, film actors I hadn't seen in years. And they were signing autographs at the door, and Wally was like, "Come on, get up to the microphone."
I think it was at Long Beach, and you were there, Bill and Mary. I think too. We had Keone Young with us, and we did a Q&A, and an Asian fella stood up and talked about what it meant to him to have an Asian character on television. That his friends who were Caucasian would come over, and suddenly here was an Asian character that wasn't an object of fun or derision, but actually was a hero. And it was quite moving. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He'll be joining us tomorrow for the Bad Guys.
Well, you might ask him about that and see if he remembers.
No, absolutely. Let me ask this: What's become a treasured memory that you have of being associated with G.I. Joe?
My treasured memory is when Destro and Cobra Commander tried to light Duke's script on fire as he stood at the microphone. Michael, I don't know if you blocked that memory out. I don't think the smoke is happening. But yeah.
Scars, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a treasured memory, and I haven't been able to find it. But there was one day when I showed up for G.I. Joe, and they had the call sheet when you walked up the stairs and you opened the door, and on the right-hand side there on the wall was this little sheet showing who's in today and the characters they're playing. And it was completely, it there were maybe 25 spaces, but there were more than that of actors. There were, I think, 34 or 36 actors in this 22-minute show. So there was a Xerox machine over there. So I took that off the wall, went over to the Xerox machine and Xeroxed it, and put it back, tacked it back up on the wall. I've got it somewhere. I just haven't been able to find it.
Nice.
But that was crazy. That was crazy. And you're right. We were cast for natural voices, but once, as Bill pointed out, once they started increasing the number of characters, not only would they get more actors, but we'd find ourselves doubling and tripling and whatever. And so that's when it got a little bit more interesting. I don't want to say there was more artifice.
And I believe the rule of thumb back then was they could squeeze you for 3 characters an episode.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's very good. So who's got another one?
Well, I just remember how much fun those sessions were. I used to tell people it's like going to the greatest party you ever get to go to. They just don't serve alcohol, and every now and then this annoying man interrupts and makes you work. But, I mean, some of the older actors and writers that they brought in on that, wonderful raconteurs and storytellers. And I just, and we were all crammed in this tiny, it wasn't even a green room. It was just a inadequate reception area of Wally's, and his poor secretary is trying to work, and people are telling stories and playing all the parts in the stories. Yes, Roger C. Carmel, I'm talking about you. And I said in my book, she probably hears our voices in her sleep to this day. I mean, it was just, but I always think of that when I think of either G.I. Joe or Transformers.
I have memories.
You know, Patty, there was a lot of young women who came up to me in very much the same way that folks would come up to Keone and say that this is the first time I've been able to see myself on the show. Lady Jaye was the first short-haired heroine in animation history. And she was also non-fetishized, which was pretty awesome. What people did with her in their own minds was, a treasured memory for me was the length of these sessions, which drove all of us crazy, but which did give us time to hang out in the lobby and tell those stories. I remember Michael Bell saying one day, 5 or 6 hours into it, when I first pulled up, I was worried about getting a parking ticket out front. Now I'm worried about my car devaluing. So
I remember
they were a drag at the time in some ways, but they've given us all of these wonderful memories. By the way, we weren't on the hook for 3 voices. We were on the hook for endless voices for 1 paycheck until Michael and I and some of the others here got involved in the animation contract negotiation, where we were on strike for 2 weeks total in order to gain the right to produce 3 voices for 1 paycheck and then additional voices from there. This is how I found myself talking to myself in the role of 2 other characters in certain scenes in G.I. Joe. It was all Mary Mac all the time, a couple of those scenes.
And sadly, as a result, Deke, the distributor production company, said, okay, we're going to Canada, and thus ended most of our G.I. Joe careers. And the ensuing 1 year of episodes of G.I. Joe, everybody was, it's so cold outside there. I got my tongue stuck to the battery with these Toronto accents.
Yeah, the all-American hero with the all-Canadian voice.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, not at all. And again, thank you for as an equity actor and a firm believer in my union. Yes, we're cousins, and any victory is our mutual victory.
Well, I think Deke shot themselves in the foot. They could have settled and said, all right, let's do it. And they could have done another. It was the show was so popular. I mean, look at it. It's airing on Hulu, 37 years later. They could have had a much bigger windfall of cash and cashed out their stock options had they just said, all right, fine, here's a raise.
Again, and our voices are still great, so they should call us all back for a revival.
Yeah. Right.
The great irony about G.I. Joe and Transformers, was that there was so many bean counter decisions going on in the background, more than any other, like, I think, animated show going on at the time. And between what Hasbro required and everything else going on too, there was so much going on that I'm still kind of amazed at the quality that Matt, you and the writing team and the creative side managed to squeeze out. So again, that's kudos to you all as actors.
I have to say that the great memory for me was, you know, I'm a big TV watching guy from when I was a little kid. So I've watched all those shows from the 60s and 70s and so forth. And the great thing for me was it was like a fanboy's dream come true, because I would go in and I would, you know, be sitting there and then I would see somebody and I would go, oh my God, that's so-and-so from that show. Oh my God, that's so-and-so from this show. I'm sitting here right now and I'm going, oh my God, Hank Garrett. That's the lethal postman assassin from, you know, 3 Days with a Condor. Right? And I'm going, oh my God, that's so great. This is the kind of stuff that I love. And being part of the show is one of the things where I go, man, I got to meet a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is the great thing about a large cast of professionals, getting to meet so many people. I've been working on another series where there were 5 of us regulars and we did all the parts, and that was great working with everybody. But this, you never knew who was going to walk in.
Yeah, for sure.
One day in the studio, a bunch of us are sitting on the floor waiting for our scenes to come up. And I'm talking to this young woman and I ask, you know, what have you been doing recently? You know, and she was one of the stars of the Maverick series that had just returned to television about 3 years before. It's like, oh, gee, I thought I was in love with you 2 years ago. You know, I didn't say that, but I was thinking that. You know, surprises.
Michael, bring us home. What's been your favorite memory to come out of G.I. Joe?
I don't know if it's a favorite memory, but it's a memory. Chris Latta, the late Chris Latta.
Oh, yeah.
And standing next to him when he was working. And Chris was a stand-up comic.
Yes.
And Chris worked real hard. He's got that great voice. He had that great voice, that great deep shouting and that high pitch, etc. And when he would do Cobra and things like that. And I noticed the first time next to him that when he moved his head, sweat flew off. So I decided after that the next time we worked, I would find a mic at the other end of the room. Because every time Chris would say, so you are, blah, and all of a sudden you would be sopping wet. And that's an interesting approach, but I'm not going to be there. I'm going to go to the other end. I'll put him next to the girls.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks a lot.
Very nice. Okay, I have just one more short question, then we'll go over to the audience one. Does anybody still have any of the figures of any of their characters?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I have a couple of Shipwrecks that some fans were kind enough to give me, and then somebody gave me a lovely, great big Voltron, which I know we're not talking about, but
everything's on the table. Don't worry. Anything about your voice? Very nice. Well, in that case, then let's go ahead and go to our audience questions. And Jude, go ahead and roll our first one. And this is going to come from Jonathan, who wants to know: did you take inspiration from any prolific figures or family members when developing a character voice? And this can extend to your entire voiceover career.
Yes, I did for Rugrats. Grandpa Boris, the Jewish grandpa, was my grandfather and my grandmother, because when you came from the old country, you all sounded alike. When you were old, everybody sounded alike from the old country. And they looked alike. Men and women looked alike. And I chose to use that voice for that character. Yeah.
Michael has a wonderful description of what we do. He calls it vocal Mr. Potato Head.
Yep.
If you remember the game, you know, a little plastic oval and you put noses and ears and make the face different. We're sort of doing that with our voices.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I would be flailing around trying to find a voice, and I would stumble into something that they liked. And in the back of my mind is I'm doing something. I've heard this before, but I don't know. And then maybe days or weeks later, you'd realize you'd done a sort of a rip-off of some a character actor that you'd seen in a 30s movie or a 40s movie, or maybe something you'd heard on the radio. I can't say I ever, other than the obvious similarity between Shipwreck and Jack Nicholson, I don't think I've ever modeled anybody on any specific person or family member or anything. It's just this melange of voices rattling around in your head, and you just start playing vocal Mr. Potato Head, and something comes out.
I auditioned for Archer a couple of seasons ago, and the description said that they wanted a mid-Atlantic accent. And I thought to myself, man, I got this. Because, we all love those sort of, those 1940s New York sounds, and everybody sounded so glamorous. And by God, I got cast. And I was cast as Veronica Dean, season 7 of Archer. And this is the series where they did a whole takeoff on Sunset Boulevard. And it opens with Archer face down in the swimming pool. And here comes Veronica Dean down the stairs in her gown, and so she was based on a collection, like as Neil said, the melange of sound that we've all grown up with. Having these kinds of Memorex minds, by the way, is exactly the reason why everybody here spent a lot of time on a chair out in the hall or sent to the principal's office in elementary school. Because we were jibba-jabba, we had a lot to say and a lot of noises to make. I know Billy and I have spent years embarrassing our daughters with making goofy noises in public spaces. It never grows old. My daughter's 30 and I still love doing it.
Yeah, it might be a gene marker for making weird voices. And to Jonathan's question, which is very interesting, my first conversation with Michael Bell I took a class from Michael in animation voice. Michael was doing about 10 series as a voice at the time. And I think, Michael, you said, well, I name my characters. And so I could picture Michael Bell and Frank Welker and Neil and Will going down the freeway going, all right, now it's Herbert Hoover. What everyone said to me during a G.I. Joe session, Bill, do your other voice. So I'm Flint and a security guard. But to answer Jonathan's question, I think for me, my dad was a World War II vet, and saw a lot of action on a destroyer escort in the Pacific, and probably came back with PTSD and who knows. But he used to kind of direct breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like this. And so automatically, when I'm asked to be this guy with a black beret and big pectoral muscles, I sounded automatically like not because I thought about my father, but like Neil was saying, those voices are sort of swirling around, and if you have that weird genetic predilection to suddenly be another character, that stuff comes out.
Absolutely fair.
And when you see yourself, and if you sat with everybody, with all the guys and the ladies, and you sit around, and we're all preparing in the old days, not anymore, because now everybody's doing everything by your MP3 or at home. But in those days, we all saw each other. We all played. You would watch everybody working on their. I called it vocal baiting. Everybody would sit around going, okay, okay, great. And it just, this is what we all would do. And I said, you're all vocal baiting. Everybody's vocal baiting here. And that's exactly what we do. We do it out loud. We do it loud so we can hear it and make sure it works. But it's just sitting around. It was so great. You can pick up some. I always tell, when I teach my class, I say, plagiarize, don't shade your eyes. That's why God made your eyes. So plagiarize.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's just going to come out different anyway, so just go for it. So if you do a famous actor, it's going to sound a little bit different, but it'll help you get into that role. Yeah.
Wait, I got to write that down. If the glove fits, you must acquit. Was that what it was? Well, if the poem rhyme, you shall not do time.
Michael, I have if you don't sound like Will Ryan, you ain't half Ryan. That's the one I go for.
Half Ryan.
Michael, I think that, wouldn't you say that when you did some of your voice work based on the folks who came over from the old country, that you had that rich well of possible Yiddish speakers, at least one generation, if not two generations back.
Exactly.
And the addition of that kind of vocal, that sonic soul creates something quite wonderful, don't you think?
And that's going to kind of disappear because there's not many people from the old country here anymore. It's like everybody's homogenized. Now she lives in Beverly Hills. She has her hair done, has her nails done, her toes done.
Yeah. You've got to go to Williamsburg to hear it.
Yeah.
Indeed. So, Will, how about you?
Well, it's funny. I was just thinking now, this wasn't going to be my answer, but I have played a character named Father Orion, and I have played a character named Captain Orion. And as I mentioned to you, Patty, my grandfather's name was Patty Orion, was Pat Ryan.
I love you.
And Pat Ryan, by the way, was the hero in the Terry and the Pirates. Yeah, back in the 40s with the Dragon Lady. Great scene.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress, don't I? Frequently and often. And so naturally that would come, speaking of doing your grandparents' voices. And when I auditioned for Mutt, my audition was for Mutt, for Wally. I didn't really save his life many times, but only 3 or 4. But I did whatever the script said, and did it heroically, I suppose. And then he said, "Why don't you try an Eastern accent?" So I did kind of I thought, oh, okay, a Boston accent. And he said, New York. I thought, oh, New York, that's easy. I used to live, I lived there, And so and perhaps I tried to channel Arnold Stang, and did it really terribly, and so it came out heroically instead. But I'm intrigued by Arnold Stang. I got to work with him a few times, and he was a New Yorker, and he had this great, chunky, what a chunk of chocolate voice, if you remember him. And he was in a lot of movies over the years, going back to the 40s, but he did a movie called Hercules in New York. Yes. And it starred, it starred Arnold Strong and Arnold Stang. So the actor who changed his name to Arnold Strong was actually Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was his first film. Yes. As I said, I digress.
And he was completely dubbed over. It's like, I am Hercules. That's not me. This is me. Yeah, with that lag. So, yeah, classic one. So, Francois, how about you?
I'm just listening to you guys. I had enough trouble finding my own voice, so I didn't really no inspiration from trying to find different people. It was like, oh. And it was great that Wally was looking for just somebody who just didn't have to do too many voices and come up with stuff. Sure. So it was me, and Quick Kick here is me, except for all the muscles and the whatever it is that he does. But that was it.
Absolutely. So, Hank, can you hear us?
Here.
Oh, here I am.
Okay, Hank.
Okay.
Yeah, so while we still got you here, real quick, the question on the table: Have you ever taken any inspiration from either public figures or family members when you were developing one of your character voices?
Oh, he's frozen.
Holly was a big fan of 3 Days of the Condor. I won the New York Film Critics Award for best fight scene in film ever. And when I met Wally and we were talking for just a moment or two, and he said, "Were you a professional wrestler?" I said, "Oh yes." He said, "Wonderful. Now I've got 2 pro wrestlers, myself and Sergeant Slaughter." So
true.
We sat there for a moment or two, and I kind of gave voice to Dial Tone, and he said, "You got it." And that's how Dial Tone was born.
Hey, that absolutely works.
Only because Wally was a sports athlete.
Well, that absolutely works.
It was quite flattering that he remembered.
I want to make sure. Hank, did I cut you off, my friend?
At one po- I-
He's
I'm
on a little
sorry.
bit of delay.
Sorry.
Yeah, we should explain. Hank's on a delay, so it's.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Voice keeps breaking up.
That's fine. We got that wonderful story out of you. And first of all, Jonathan,
I want to
absolutely.
say something.
Please.
Francois talked about having being challenged about finding his own voice, and anybody who's spent any time having a look at Francois's work through the years or on IMDb will find that he indeed did find his own voice, and that's the reason he works. And all of us who taught, and there are several of us in this group right here, know that the hardest voice to find is your own. Your heart voice, I call it. And if you and none of us is able to do any of the things we do with voices that are one step, two steps, three steps away, or on-camera characters, Francois, which I'm very limited in, unless you found yourself first. So bravo to you for your body of work and for reminding me of that very important truth.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I guess my voice would be, because my body of work consists about 90% of the bad guy. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing to find that voice.
Hey,
That's the pension plan.
whatever gets the gig, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good, bad, it's all you get a paycheck. And okay, Jonathan, thank you so much. That was a great question. And unfortunately, GalaxyCon, this has been my time with the cast of G.I. Joe. Panelists, any final words for our audience before we go?
I'd like to say yo.
Joe.
I'd like to say Joe.
Could we say it simultaneously?
Can we say it all together?
I'll give you the countdown. 1, 2, 3.
And now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
I love
It is
I love you guys.
It's been my absolute pleasure to serve you all today. Once again, thank you for joining us here on the GalaxyCon virtual stage. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. Thank you for that great question. Hope to see you all again tomorrow, Sunday, December 13th. GalaxyCon Live will follow up this G.I. Joe reunion with a Cobra reunion featuring several actors who gave voice to that ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world. Until then, bye-bye, everyone. Take care, and please keep washing your hands. And now you know.
Thanks, Patty. Wear a mask,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Adios.